Right now, you can see the future. No, seriously. Not next year, not next month, and unfortunately, not tomorrow's lottery numbers. That would be much more useful. I'm talking about the next few seconds, and before you click away thinking this is some weird psychic prediction video, it's not. This is neuroscience. And what scientists discovered is genuinely strange. Try something. Raise one hand. Now touch your nose. Simple, right? You didn't miss. You didn't accidentally poke yourself in the eye. Hopefully. But here's the weird part. Your brain knew where your nose would be before your finger got there. In fact, your brain is constantly making predictions, thousands of them, every second. As you read these words, it's already guessing the next word. As you listen to someone speak, it's trying to finish their sentence. Sometimes it even gets so confident that you accidentally say the ending before they do, which is either impressive or incredibly annoying, depending on which side of the conversation you're on. But it gets stranger. Scientists now believe that your brain isn't simply reacting to reality. It's predicting reality all the time, and if those predictions suddenly stopped, you wouldn't be able to walk properly, catch a ball, drive a car, or even have a normal conversation. Because the truth is, your brain doesn't live entirely in the present. It lives slightly ahead of it, just far enough ahead to keep you alive, and once you understand how this works, you'll never look at reality the same way again, because what you're about to discover is one of the strangest secrets of the human brain. Imagine someone throws a ball at your face. Not gently, not politely, directly at your face. Your brain has two options. Option 1, figure out where the ball is going, move your hand, catch it. Option 2, do absolutely nothing, and become a very educational example of gravity. Luckily, your brain usually chooses option 1. But here's the strange part. It shouldn't work. Think about it. The ball is moving. Your eyes see it. The information travels through your nerves, your brain processes it, then decides what to do. That sounds fast, but it's actually slow. Not slow by human standards, slow by reality standards. Because while your brain is busy processing information, the ball keeps moving. Reality doesn't pause and politely wait for your brain to catch up. Imagine driving like that. A car turns in front of you. Your brain takes its time, analyzes the situation, writes a report, schedules a meeting, reviews the evidence, and then finally decides to react. You'd survive approximately 3 seconds. So evolution came up with a smarter solution. Instead of reacting to reality, your brain predicts it. Before the ball reaches your hand, your brain estimates where it's going. Before your foot touches the ground, your brain predicts where the floor will be. Before someone finishes a sentence, your brain is already trying to finish it for them. In fact, you probably did that recently. Someone starts talking, and halfway through the sentence you think, oh, I know exactly what they're about to say. And sometimes you're right, which feels great, and sometimes you're completely wrong, which is a fantastic way to embarrass yourself. But the important thing is this: your brain never stops guessing, ever. Every second, every movement, every conversation, every sound, your brain is constantly asking one question: what happens next? And then it makes a prediction. Most of the time, the prediction is correct. So correct, in fact, that you never notice it happened. Reality feels instant, effortless, normal. But behind the scenes, your brain is performing one of the most impressive tricks in nature. It's taking incomplete information and using it to predict the future. Not tomorrow, not next week, just far enough ahead to keep you alive. And according to many neuroscientists, this isn't some side feature of the brain. This might actually be its main job. Which leads to a very strange question. What if your brain isn't just predicting reality? What if it's helping create it? Because the next discovery changes everything. Scientists now believe that a surprising amount of what you experience isn't coming from your eyes. It's coming from your expectations. And once you see the evidence, it's impossible to unsee. Now, that might sound ridiculous. Your brain predicts reality? Okay, fine. But surely your eyes are still doing most of the work, right? Well, not exactly. Let's do a quick experiment. Look around the room. Pick any object, a chair, a cup, a phone, whatever is closest. Now ask yourself, how much of that object are you actually seeing? The answer is less than you think. A lot less. Because your eyes are surprisingly bad at their job. No offense to your eyes, they're trying their best, but they leave out a huge amount of information. In fact, right now, you have a blind spot. A real one. An actual hole in your vision, and you've probably never noticed it, which is honestly a little creepy. Imagine your camera had a missing section, a giant hole right in the middle of every photo. You'd return it immediately. 1-star review. never buying from that company again. But your brain does something clever. It fills the gap, silently, automatically. Without asking permission, your brain literally invents part of what you see. And somehow, it gets away with it, every single day. But the blind spot is just the beginning, because scientists now believe your brain works less like a camera, and more like a detective that's constantly making guesses. Imagine walking into your kitchen at night. You don't carefully inspect every object. You already know what's probably there. The table, the fridge, the chairs. Your brain predicts the scene before you fully see it. Most of the time, it's correct, which saves an enormous amount of energy. Why analyze everything from scratch when you can make an educated guess? And that's exactly what your brain does. Millions of times per day, it predicts, checks, updates, predicts again, checks again, updates again, over and over and over. The world you're experiencing right now may actually be your brain's best guess about what's out there, which sounds insane, until you realize how often those guesses fail. And when they fail, something very strange happens. You experience an illusion. Think about magic tricks. Everybody knows magic isn't real. Yet somehow, a grown adult can watch a coin disappear and immediately become a confused monkey. Why? Because the magician isn't fooling your eyes. He's fooling your predictions. Your brain expects one thing. Reality does another. And for a brief moment, your entire mental model crashes. The same thing happens with optical illusions. Some pictures move even though they're completely still. Some shapes look bigger than they are. Some colors seem different despite being identical. Your eyes aren't broken, your brain is simply making a prediction, and the prediction is wrong, which raises a fascinating possibility. If your brain can trick you that easily, how much of reality are you actually seeing? And how much are you predicting? The answer gets even stranger, because your brain doesn't just predict objects, it predicts people too. And that's where things start becoming a little scary. Okay, not literally. You're not Professor X. You cannot read minds. Unfortunately, that would have been useful in job interviews. But your brain does something surprisingly close. Imagine you're talking to a friend. They start a sentence, and before they finish, you already know where they're going. Sometimes you're so confident that you interrupt them, and then immediately regret it, because they were about to say something completely different. Awkward. But why does that happen? Because your brain is constantly predicting human behavior. Facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, word choices. You've spent your entire life collecting data, without realizing it. Every conversation you've ever had, every person you've ever met, every awkward social interaction has been training a prediction machine. Your prediction machine. And most of the time, it's incredibly accurate. That's why conversations feel smooth. That's why you can tell when someone is angry before they say it. That's why you sometimes know a joke is coming before the punchline arrives. Your brain is always looking ahead, trying to answer the same question. What happens next? But here's the crazy part. The better your predictions become, the less you notice them. Success becomes invisible. You only notice prediction when it fails. Like when someone behaves completely differently than expected. Or when a friend suddenly says something shocking. Or when reality does something your brain didn't prepare for. That's why surprises feel so powerful. They expose the machinery. For a brief moment, you see the prediction system break. And suddenly, reality feels strange again. But this leads to one final question. If prediction is everywhere, why don't we notice it? Why does reality feel immediate? Why does it feel like we're simply experiencing the world directly? The answer reveals one of the strangest secrets of consciousness. Here's something strange. You have already seen thousands of versions of the future. Most of them were correct. You just never noticed. Think about walking. Seriously. Right now, stand up. Take a few steps. Looks easy. Feels automatic. Almost boring. But imagine if your brain suddenly stopped predicting. Every step would become a gamble. Your foot wouldn't know exactly where the floor was. Your balance would constantly fail. You'd walk like someone trying to survive their first day on Earth, which, to be fair, would be entertaining for everyone except you. The truth is, walking isn't a reaction. It's a prediction. Your brain is constantly estimating where your foot will land, how your body will move, how much force is needed, what happens next. And it does all of this before it happens. Not after, before. Now think about catching a falling phone. You know that moment. Your phone slips. And suddenly, your hand moves like a superhero. For one glorious second, you become faster than you've ever been in your entire life. Then 5 minutes later, you forget why you walked into the kitchen. The human brain is a fascinating machine. But that phone-catching moment isn't magic. Your brain predicts the trajectory. calculates the movement, and launches your hand before you're fully aware of what's happening. It's already living slightly ahead of you, which raises a weird question. If your brain predicts physical reality, can it predict people too? The answer is absolutely, and it does it all the time. Imagine your best friend starts telling a story. After a few seconds, you already know how they're going to tell it. The pauses, the jokes, the dramatic parts, the completely unnecessary details. You've heard this person so many times that your brain has built a model of them, a tiny simulation, a prediction machine. In fact, you probably have one for everyone you know. Your parents, your friends, your coworkers, that one guy who always says, "actually," before explaining something nobody asked for. Your brain is constantly predicting people, and most of the time, it's right, which is why human behavior feels normal, expected, predictable, until somebody does something completely unexpected. And then, your brain panics. Not a huge panic, just enough to say, wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. And that's what surprise really is. A failed prediction. The moment reality refuses to follow the script. But here's where things become even stranger. Because according to some neuroscientists, prediction isn't just something your brain does. Prediction may be the foundation of consciousness itself. In other words, the reason you experience reality at all may be because your brain is constantly trying to guess what happens next. And if that's true, then the future isn't just something you see. It may be something you're actively helping create. For most of human history, people imagined the brain as a machine that reacts. First reality happens, then the brain responds. Simple, logical, wrong. Modern neuroscience suggests something much stranger. Your brain is not waiting for reality. It's preparing for it. Every second, every moment, every experience. It's building predictions, running simulations, testing possibilities, and comparing them against what actually happens. The world arrives. Your brain checks its prediction, corrects the mistakes, then immediately starts predicting again. It's an endless loop, one that has been running every second of your life. Even now, as you're listening to these words, your brain is trying to predict the next sentence, the next idea, maybe even the next joke. Although let's be honest, it's probably doing a better job than I am. But here's the truly fascinating part. You never see any of this happen. The machinery stays hidden. Just like you don't see the engine inside a car while driving, you only experience the final result, a smooth reality, a seamless world, a continuous story, and because the process stays invisible, most people spend their entire lives without realizing they're looking through a prediction machine, which means something incredible is happening right now. As you sit here, reading this, your brain is already living slightly ahead of the present, not by minutes, not by hours, not by years. Just enough to make reality work. Just enough to help you survive. Just enough to keep you one step ahead of chaos. And perhaps that's the strangest part. Human beings never evolved the ability to see tomorrow. We can't predict the stock market. We can't know our destiny. We can't see next year. But evolution gave us something almost as remarkable. A brain that quietly predicts the future thousands of times every second. A machine so good at its job that most people never realize it's there. So the next time you catch a ball, finish someone's sentence. Avoid tripping over a step, or somehow save your phone before it hits the ground. Remember this, you weren't simply reacting. For a brief moment, your brain saw the future, and then reality caught up.